This is the story from 1570 years ago when several barbarian tribes attacked the Roman Empire. The barbarians and the Huns attacked many cities of the Roman Empire, causing widespread devastation. The people there wanted to escape with their lives, but on one side was the Adriatic Sea and on the other side the Tyrrhenian Sea, blocking their path. They had only one option left, so they began to flee to nearby islands and the sea. Upon reaching there, they were saved from the attacks, but these islands were located in a shallow lagoon with soft soil that couldn't support human weight. Despite all the difficulties, these people not only settled there, but also demonstrated engineering feats by building canals, buildings, and even bridges. There was no fresh drinking water, but still, the Venetians turned it into the most powerful city. But how did this happen? How was such a large city built on small islands that could barely support any weight, even 1,000 years ago? Welcome back to Discover TV videos. Initially, when people from Roman cities arrived on these islands, they had no place to stay. The soft, clay-like land would cause anything placed on it to sink. Many suggested returning to the coast, but returning meant death as the barbarians and Huns, nomadic tribes from northern Europe, had attacked after exploiting the Roman Empire's weakness. The situation was so dire that living on these soft islands became their only option. 5 kilometers away from the coast, there were more than 150 small marshy islands, and they were all in the same condition. One day, one of the refugees was sinking into the ground. To save himself, he drove the oar of his boat into the earth, and after going several feet down, it became completely solid. This gave them the idea that later became the foundation of Venice. They brought tree trunks from the forests near modern-day Croatia and hammered them into the marshy islands. After going about 5 meters down, these trunks would embed in the solid earth and form a grip. They were placed close together to create a stable platform. After driving the piles into the ground, the upper parts were cut off and leveled, and wooden planks were laid on top to distribute the load evenly across the piles. To raise the foundation above the water level, special limestone blocks were placed. The combination of stone blocks on top and 5-meter-long wooden piles beneath created a strong foundation. The wooden trunks, now underwater, expanded and tightly interlocked, leaving no space between them for air to pass through. This is why the piles driven into Venice around 1,000 years ago are still in perfect condition, supporting the weight of the city. After laying the foundation, construction of buildings began. Initially, the Venetians built wooden houses, but they often caught fire due to cooking and other activities. Later, bricks were also used. To keep the buildings light, houses were never more than 3 stories tall. A special mortar made from limestone powder was used between the bricks, allowing the walls to be strong yet flexible. The floors and inner walls were made of wooden planks, which were held in place by iron rods. This method became quite popular in Venice, and soon the islands were filled with homes built in this manner. Normally, cities expand outward, but Venice began expanding inward. Initially, boats were the only way to travel between islands, but as the population grew, the islands started getting closer together, and now horses could even cross the islands on the land with less water between them. The most pressing need in Venice was to connect these islands. For the first 500 years, the islands were not connected, but as the population grew and trade increased, the business hub known as Rialto started to build simple wooden bridges. These were called pont bridges, where passage was made using floats. Though it was easier to reach Rialto with this bridge, it was unstable due to its reliance on floats, causing people to fall into the water. Later, a permanent wooden bridge was built, but in 1310 it was set on fire due to civil unrest. After the fire, the Rialto Bridge stood for the next 140 years, but eventually collapsed in 1444 due to the weight. Finally, the decision was made to build Venice's first stone bridge to connect Rialto. This bridge used the same technique that had been used to build the city. More than 12,000 wooden piles were driven into the riverbank, and on top of them, a 10,000-ton stone arch bridge was constructed. This bridge was so successful that soon stone bridges were built all over Venice. Even today, these bridges remain standing, bearing the weight of people. With the help of these bridges, moving from one island to another became much easier. Venice is a city without roads but only canals, and people travel from one place to another using these canals. This system had the advantage of making it much easier to transport goods throughout the city, as opposed to normal cities where pedestrians and horse-drawn carts use the same roads, causing congestion. In Venice, pedestrian walkways were separate from the canals, and the greatest benefit was that anyone could quickly reach their homes by getting off the canal at any point. Soon, Venice became the most powerful and wealthy city in Europe, and the biggest reason for this was its location. On the map, you can see that Venice is located at the end of the Adriatic Sea, which leads directly into the Mediterranean, connecting Africa, Europe, and the Middle East. Even today, the easiest and cheapest way to transport goods is via sea routes, meaning that ships from the Middle East and Eastern Europe could easily reach Venice. Because of the high number of cargo ships passing through Venice, the Venetians became wealthy from trading goods between Western and Eastern Europe. However, with the population growing, the demand for drinking water became extremely high. Although Venice was surrounded by water, it was salty and unrinkable. There were no natural springs or rivers, so fresh water couldn't be stored. Water was brought from the mainland in barrels, but as the population reached 170,000, a water shortage began to emerge. This led the engineers of Venice to come up with an advanced solution. They dug deep holes on islands where no construction had occurred, waterproofed them, and used them to collect rainwater. These wells were built around a central well, and the sand and stone acted as a natural filter, making the water safe to drink. But the biggest problem remained sewage. Normally, cities have underground sewage systems that carry waste away, but Venice had no ground to lay such systems. Instead, people used to throw waste directly into the canals. In the 16th century, the Venetians created drains to collect waste from homes, which would flow directly into the canals. The liquid waste would immediately be carried away by the rising water level during high tide, while the solid waste remained in the drains. Twice a day, during high and low tides, the seawater would flow into the canals, cleansing the city of waste. Despite being gradually sinking, Venice remains a marvel of engineering. Though the city is slowly sinking by 1–2 millimeters every year, its buildings, canals, bridges, and sewage systems continue to operate, and over 60 million tourists visit each year. Although the local population is less than 50,000,